From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang in review. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday met with His Excellency Mohammed Al-Hamadi, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer or CEO of the Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation or ENEC in a courtesy call at the study room in Malacañang Palace. During their meeting, the President expressed his gratitude towards the ENEC officials for undertaking a visit to the country anchored on reaffirming ties between the Philippines and the United Arab Emirates or UAE in terms of energy cooperation. According to the Chief Executive, the meeting serves as an opportune time for both nations to further discuss opportunities that will ensure energy security as the government continues its efforts to secure additional sources of power to meet the growing demands in the country. ENEC is an agency under the government of UAE responsible for the deployment, ownership, and operations of nuclear energy plants in the Arab nation. According to its official Facebook page, it primarily aims to deliver a safe, clean, and efficient electricity through nuclear energy to the UAE while supporting the country's sustainable growth and decarbonization efforts. Present during the courtesy call are Department of Energy or DOE Secretary Rafael Lutilla and Special Envoy to the UAE for Trade and Investments Ana Katrina U. Pimentel, among others.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday presided over the 8th Philippine Space Council meeting at the Philippine Space Agency or PhilSA in Quezon City. According to Presidential Communications Office or PCO Secretary Cheloy Velicaria Garafil, the Chief Executive reiterated his directive to develop and utilize space and technology for the development of the country. The meeting's agenda includes the establishment of the Philippine Space Council Standing committees, updates on the development and utilization and space science technology applications or SSTA, and development of the Multispectral Unit for Land Assessment or MULA satellite. These initiatives underscore the agency's central goal of becoming a space-capable and spacefaring nation within the next decade as articulated in the Philippine Space Act. PhilSA Director General Joel Joseph Marciano Jr. reported on the celebration of the 2024 Philippine Space Week themed Yamang Kalawakan ay likas sa ating bagong Pilipinas, which highlights the role of space in building a modern, peaceful, resilient, and prosperous Philippines. President Marcos Jr. visited 3 key areas of the exhibit stationed at the Philippine Space Agency, namely the Yamang Kalawakan and Space Value Chain, which demonstrates the importance of space and various SSTA initiatives. Pandora Instruments, the ground-based spectrometers that measure data similar to that observed by the Geostationary Environment Monitoring Spectrometer or GEMS and are used to validate satellite readings, and a replica of the MULA satellite, which is being developed by the Philippines, that features a true-color camera capable of capturing 5-meter resolution images with a wide swath width of 120 kilometers. Data from MULA is expected to contribute significantly to the country's food security, disaster resilience, environmental conservation, and national security. As part of the 2024 Philippine Space Week celebration, PhilSA conducted a three-day exhibit from the 9th to the 11th of August in Araneta City's Gateway Mall 2 in Cubao, Quezon City. The event showcased various SSTA initiatives and featured stage events, including the launch of the Space Data Dashboard, the Patalasan sa Yamang Kalawakan Ideation Contest, and a book reading of Si Tala at ang Kanyang Lakbay Kalawakan, a children's book on United Nations space treaties.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday evening announced that he would give 1 million pesos to each Filipino Olympian who joined in the 2024 Paris Olympics. In his message during the welcoming of Filipino Olympians at Malacañang Palace, the President asked the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, to give 1 million pesos to each of the athletes that competed in Paris before saying that his office would match the amount, bringing the total up to 2 million pesos per Olympian. The chief executive said his office would also provide 500,000 pesos for the coaching staff. President Marcos said the amount was small compared to the Filipino athletes' sacrifices in the competition. Two-time gold medalist Carlos Yulo, under Republic Act or RA 10699, signed in 2015, or the National Athletes and Coaches Benefits and Incentives Act, was mandated to receive 10 million pesos for each of his 2 gold medals. With the announcement, he is set to receive 22 million pesos from the Philippine government. Bronze medalists Nesty Petesio and Ira Villegas were supposed to receive 2 million pesos each under the same act, but are now expected to bring home 4 million pesos. The rest of the delegation would receive 2 million pesos each. The country wrapped up the Summer Games at the 37th spot with 2 gold medals from Yulo, who ruled the men's floor exercise and vault, and 2 bronze medals courtesy of boxers Petesio and Villegas. Let us now listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. during the event.
Ito yung binigay ninyo sa akin nung nag-send off ako sa inyo. And wow, I never thought how proud I would be to wear it again because of the brilliant performance of our athletes. Let me greet the Philippine Olympic Committee President, Abraham Tolentino, PSC Chairman Richard Bachman, our supporters and friends, so we could not do without in the private sector, fellow workers in government, of course, the First Lady Luis Araneta Marcos, and of course, the most important group that pinakamahalaga na grupo na nandito ngayon, ng ating mga atleta na nakilahok sa Olympic at bumalik na napakagandang resulta. At that is what we are commemorating and celebrating a little bit now. Ladies and gentlemen, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Unang-una sa lahat, sa ating mga atleta, sa inyong mga pamilya, welcome sa Palasyo. And the honor is mine, the honor is ours to be able to welcome you, such achievers who have Kumbaga sa pinapaganda ninyo at pinapatingkad ninyo ang pangalan ng Pilipino. At kaya naman, kami naman nagpapasalamat sa inyong lahat. Dahil bukod sa medalya, but of course, Kaloy, your performance was just, and it deserved 2 gold medals. And that's how high a standard that we have reached. At ngunit nakikita naman namin na siguro lahat naman kami rito, pinagdadasal namin kayo. At saka isa lang irereklamo ko sa inyo lahat at napuyat ako ng 2 linggo akong puyat para manood ng sari-saring mga event. But yung puyat ko, worth it dahil talagang napakagandang panoorin kayo at makita kayo. At yung performance ninyo na naging bunga sa taon-taon na sakripisyo ng sarili ninyo, ng inyong mga coach, mga trainer, mga nutritionist, at lalong-lalo na mga pamilya ninyo. At alam naman natin, walang mananalo na atleta na hindi suportado ng katakot-takot na karaming tao na walang iniisip kung paano kayo tulungan para maging successful. And ito yung ating kinikilala ngayon at napakahalaga. At ngayon, it is now in the international stage. And so, we can see that ulit, ang sikat na naman ng Pilipinas. Pinapasikat ninyo ang Pilipinas sa buong mundo. Alam ko na iniisip ninyo, gymnastics, boxing, di ba, sa pole vault, yan yung iniisip lang ninyo yung event ninyo. Pero yung performance ninyo, may malaking kahulugan yan. It means a lot. May malaking kahulugan yan para sa amin dito na nanonood sa inyo, na sumisigaw at nagsusuporta sa inyo. And that's why it was for me I think we should recognize not only the athletes, although they are, of course, deserving of recognition, but also all the support group. Over the years, hindi nangyari ito dahil nung last year nag-decide ka mag-sports. Matagal-tagal ito. Lalaban namin, you go through injury, hindi ka makabiyahe dahil walang pambayad ng pamasahe to go abroad, to go to the international competitions. All of these and yet you come through. And yet you have shown the spirit of the Filipino, the determination of a Filipino, and the excellence of the Filipino spirit. And that's what you have shown for us today. And for that, iniisip ko kanina, nung nangyayari ito, sabi ko, ano kayang pwede nating maitulong sa ating mga atleta, sa ating mga tumulong sa kanila. Habang nanonood ako na news, sabi ko, mayaman na ito si Kaloy. Daming perang binibigay, tingnan ko ano ito. Sabi ko, isipin kaya natin, magbigay tayo ng ganito. Meron nang nagbigay, 2 pa. Sabi ko, sige, paano natin gagawin to? So, I said, I thought that what we should do is really recognize all the athletes. Number 1, all the athletes. I think any athlete, kahit sinong atleta dito sa Pilipinas o saan man lang, na makapag-qualify sa Olympics, mabigat yun. That is an extremely difficult achievement to have managed. So, that's why, tama-tama nandito si Chairman siyang maraming pere. So, lahat naman ng atleta natin, bigyan na natin, basta nag-Olympian. Bigyan natin tig 1 milyon. Di ba? Ima-match pa ng Office of the President yung bibigay mo para at least matulong lang tayo. Bukod pa ron, dahil sa ating pangingilala sa mga lahat ng tumulong, the coaching staff, bibigyan din natin ng kalahating milyon para sa amin. Hihinga ako ng paumanin ninyo dahil maliit lang. At alam ko na yung 1,000,000 piso, halimbawa, ay ikumpara mo sa inyong sakripisyo. Ikumpara ninyo sa inyong pinagdaanan. Ikumpara ninyo, napakaliit lang. Pero ngayon lang, ito yung gagawin natin. Ngayon, sabi ko nga, marami na tayong ibinibigay na material things. No? What I would like to now do is to ask our athletes, our coaches, all our sports organizations. Imbes na maglalabas kami ng cash, well, if you need more cash, we'll find some more. But I think more importantly, I want to be part of the development of sports in the Philippines. Na iwanan na tayo. If you can consider, if you can consider that all of these athletes who have done so well and have made us so proud, there is no official technical support from the government. They did it on their own. Siyempre, meron tumutulong. Kuminsan yung gobyerno nakakatulong. Pero walang formal na struktura para tulungan yung ating mga atleta. And that's what we are going to establish now. So, I ask all of you to tell us, what is it that you need? Saan kayo, nung sa pag-training ng mga atleta natin, saan kayo nahirapan? Ano hindi ninyo magawa na maitutulong namin? You tell us. And hopefully, if we really work together and start to prepare for not only the Olympics, of course, that's a very important one, but not only the Olympics, we start to prepare for all the international competitions that we have that are before us. And I'm sure that na magkikita ulit tayo rito sa Palasyo, magko-congratulate ulit ako sa inyo, at hihingian natin ng pera yung pagkor ulit.
You just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday approved in principle the creation of a cabinet cluster for education, tasked to tackle the country's education crisis in a whole system rather than in multi-agencies silos. After a sectoral meeting held in Malacañang Palace press briefer Daphne Osenia Paez said, "This is to synthesize a common vision and common direction to reform the education system to have a positive long-term effect on every Filipino student and graduate." During the meeting, Osenia Paez said, President Marcos directed the agencies to devise a coherent and system-wide national integrated education and workforce development strategy that starts from early childhood education to basic education, senior high school, and so on. In a press briefing after the meeting, newly appointed Department of Education or DepEd Secretary Sunny Angara and Executive Director Carol Mark Yee of the 2nd Congressional Commission on Education or EDCOM-2 welcomed the Chief Executive's decision. Secretary Angara revealed that this was the first presentation on the proposal and thanked the President for his swift action. For his part, Executive Director Yee delivered a brief walkthrough as to what he has presented to President Marcos.
So, yung proposal po kasi ng EDCOM was to create a cabinet cluster for education. If you've seen a report, the Miseducation, the failed system of Philippine education, the insight really was all of the agencies are doing their respective jobs, but they do it independent of one another with no mechanism of really coordinating, making sure that the plans come together and they deliver an integrated system of education. Tulad ng sinabi namin kanina, ang isang bata na tinrain sa early childhood, dapat may maayos na nutrition, may early education, tsaka stimulation. Pupunta yan sa DepEd. Pagdating sa DepEd, kailangan may literacy and numeracy. Tapos pag nag-graduate ng high school, dapat employable. Nakikita natin ngayon na kanya-kanyang agency, kanya-kanyang trabaho, pero hindi nagtutugma. So, for example, yung learning gap na pinoprovide problema natin ngayon, 5.5 years ang kulang sa isang bawat Pilipinong graduate. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Sabi nga namin, nagpunta kami sa isang high school during the learning camp ng DepEd. Yung mga batang pinapanood namin sa learning camp, hirap silang mag-subtract. Grade 8 students sila. Buong buwan, inaral nila addition and subtraction and they struggled to subtract. We asked them about multiplication and I gave examples, which is really what I asked the students. Sabi ko, 3 times 3, 0 times 0, 10 times 10. Hindi kaya. Pagpasok nila nung July 29, ang lessons nila is quadratic functions, algebra. How will you solve all of those concerns? Hindi lamang siya problema ng DepEd kasi nakita namin sa iba't ibang issues. For example, early childhood. The data shows us that if you have access to early childhood education from 3 to 4, yung score sa PISA tumataas ng 32 points. So, ang laki ng impact. But yung participation natin in early childhood, 33% lamang. And pag tinignan natin yung daycare teachers and workers, wala palang program sa TESDA or CHED to train them. But you have 79,000 of them. Ang na-train ng ECCD Council for the past year, since 2011, 1,000 per year. 12,000 cumulative, 15% out of the universe of 79,000. Second, we found data that pagdating sa high school teachers natin, the bulk of our science teachers, 50% of them did not finish a course related to science. Not in science. How will you teach something you did not know yourself? 107 out of 113 SUCs natin nag-o-offer ng secondary education. Ang maganda sanang magawa, itugma yun sa pangailangan ng DepEd schools kung nasaan sila, hindi ba? And then yung third natin, yung guidance counseling, we are the bullying capital of the world based on PISA because the highest prevalence of bullying and loneliness sa Pilipinas nangyayari. Ang gumagawa ng trabaho na to based on the Anti-Bullying Act as implemented is yung guidance counselor. Pero yung vacancies natin sa DepEd, almost 5,000. Plantilla positions ng guidance counselors, wala. Yun pala, pag tinignan mo, wala namang nag-o-offer ng Masters in Guidance Counseling all over the country. Yung average graduation numbers, 300 per year. To fill all of the vacancies, it will take us 14 years by the current setup. So malinaw that DepEd, of course, has to do its work in terms of resolving the learning crisis, but it's not something that it can achieve on its own. Kailangan tulungan talaga yung agencies. Malaki yung ginagampanan ng CHED and TESDA, and it's really the National Education and Workforce Development Plan that is long-term, that will anchor them all to make sure that there is one coherent direction. And that is what we propose to the President. A cabinet cluster that will come together, first and foremost, to formulate a 10-year integrated National Education and Workforce Development Plan. And then second, to make sure that the agency targets and budgets are aligned to support this plan every year. Kasi pag hindi natin ginawa ito, 10 years yung laban natin eh. Because yung mga batang pumapasok ng kinder ngayon, kailan pa sila mag-grade 3, 4 years from now? Kailan sila mag-high school? Kailan sila magka-college? Kailangan tuloy-tuloy yung reforms. Because if it is interrupted, bagsak na naman tayo. So mahalaga yung gagampanan ng cluster. And we are grateful to the President for really seeing this very quickly. Sabi niya, we don't have a system. We have different things happening but not working together. We need to fix that. And we are very grateful for his leadership and putting his support behind this proposal and to his commitment to see this through.
EdCom2 Executive Director Carol Marquis.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued Proclamation number 664 declaring August 13, 2024 to August 12, 2025 as the centennial year of Manlilikha ng Bayan for Ilocano Master Weaver Magdalena Gamayo. Under Proclamation 664, inked by the President on Monday, August 12, the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, is directed to lead, coordinate, and supervise the observance of the Centennial Year Declaration for Gamayo, the oldest living Ilocano Master Weaver, also known as Lola Dalen. The NCCA is tasked to identify programs, activities, and projects for the year-long celebration of Gamayo's centennial year. all national government agencies and instrumentalities, including government-owned or controlled corporations or GOCCs, state universities, and colleges, are enjoined to provide support and assistance to the NCCA. All local government units or LGUs are likewise encouraged to support the observance of the centennial year of Manlilikha ng Bayan. The declaration was made upon the recommendation of the NCCA through the Gawad ng Manlilikha ng Bayan Executive Council to promote genuine appreciation among Filipinos of the valuable and intangible cultural distinction of the national living treasure. Under Proclamation No. 474, issued in 2012, Magpayo has been declared the national living treasure in recognition of her mastery in producing intricate designs and inventing her own patterns of Ilocano abel and her passion for keeping the traditional weaving industry alive.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday held a sectoral meeting to discuss strategies to revitalize the tourism industry at the State Dining Room in Malacañang Palace. The meeting focused on the National Tourism Development Plan, or NTDP 2023 to 2028, which aims to transform the Philippines into a leading tourism destination in Asia by leveraging Filipino culture, heritage, and identity. President Marcos Jr. underscored the importance of a sustainable and competitive tourism industry, highlighting its potential to drive economic growth and create jobs. The NTDP 2023 to 2028 roadmap is anchored on Filipino culture, heritage, and identity, which aims to be sustainable, resilient, and competitive to transform the Philippines into a tourism powerhouse in Asia. Under the NTDP, the Department of Tourism, or DOT, would focus on digitalization, enhancement of the overall tourist experience by incentivizing sustainable travel and improving safety and security in destinations, among others. The agency would also tap local government units, or LGUs, in developing more tourist sites and linking emerging ones to key destinations.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. directed the Department of Agriculture, or DA, to increase and make accessible soil testing centers in different areas in the country. Soil testing centers are important to check soils for farming and determine the exact volume of fertilizers needed. In a meeting at Malacañang, the President particularly pointed out the shortage in the country of soil testing centers. The Chief Executive said the government cannot give farmers advice as to how much fertilizers to use because the government doesn't know the specific condition of the soil. President Marcos added that there should be at least one testing center for every region in the country. In relation to this, the DA recommended to conduct soil mapping and agri-liming starting in Luzon to widen the sugar industry in the country.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ordered the Cooperative Development Authority, or CDA, to study the possibility of coordination between agriculture cooperatives and local government units, or LGUs, to strengthen the development and training of farmers in the country. According to Presidential Communications Office, or PCO Secretary Cheloy Velicaria Garafil, The President made the directive following the recommendation of the Private Sector Advisory Council, or PSAC, in creating an office under the Department of Agriculture, or DA, that will particularly focus on capacity building and professionalization of agricultural cooperatives. Nevertheless, the chief executive pointed out that cooperatives are covered by the CDA. That's why President Marcos suggested to have a coordination with LGUs. CDA is an attached government agency of the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, that promotes the development of cooperatives.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday held a bilateral meeting with Singaporean President Tharman Shanmugaratnam at Malacañang Palace. The two leaders witnessed the presentation of several signed agreements involving the recruitment of Filipino health workers and provide incentives to lower carbon footprint. The Singaporean leader congratulated Filipino athletes in their feat at the recently concluded 2024 Paris Olympics. In a joint statement after their meeting, President Marcos Jr. said he had a very open, frank, and wide-ranging discussion with the Singaporean president. The chief executive said the meeting was an opportunity to reaffirm and renew bonds of friendship and see how both countries can build upon them further. For his part, President Shanmugaratnam said Singapore and the Philippines could work together through their governments, corporations, and philanthropic agencies. He said the two countries, despite their differences, share the same aspirations to improve the lives of their people. Let us listen to the joint statement of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and Singaporean President Tharman Shanmugaratnam.
It is my distinct honor and pleasure to once again thank His Excellency President Tharman Shanmugaratnam, Head of State of the Republic of Singapore, for accepting my invitation to visit the Philippines. In this regard, I am pleased to inform all of you the results of our successful meeting with the President that we just had in our bilateral meeting. We had very open, frank, and wide-ranging, and I think it's safe to say that we literally went beyond the agenda that was laid out before us and covered so many subjects. And I think had we not been signaled by our protocol officers, we could have gone on for a very long time. But that is indicative of the state of Philippine-Singapore bilateral cooperation. The state visit was undertaken at the most opportune time, as this year marks the 55th anniversary of our country's diplomatic relations and comes upon the heels of several high-level visits, in which both sides have undertaken the year stated, since the year has begun. Our bilateral relations have come a long way and have undergone immense transformation since they were established over 5 decades ago. Our meeting today was an opportunity to reaffirm and review our bonds of friendship and see how we can build upon them further. The ties that bind us go beyond geography and are based on our strong people-to-people connection. This has given rise to the strong, multifaceted relationship which we enjoy today. As we have discussed before, Singapore continues to be an essential trade and investment partner of the Philippines, with Singapore businesses venturing into a wide sector of industries in the Philippines, ranging from the hospital industry to the renewable energy sector. In this spirit, we have just witnessed the exchange of the memoranda of understandings for collaboration on carbon credits under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement between the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines and the Ministry of Trade and Industry of the Republic of Singapore. Hopefully, with this memorandum, we will be able to incentivize both industries and individuals to actively work to reduce their carbon footprint, while allowing the government to mobilize financial resources to boost fiscal space. We also witnessed today the exchange of the Memorandum of Understanding on the recruitment of Filipino healthcare workers. Our ministries have worked hard on this MOU in order to ensure that a balance is achieved between the needs of the healthcare sector of both countries, as well as the need for personal development and growth of our healthcare workers. Through this MOU, we express our confidence in Singapore's legal and judicial system, which will ensure that the rights, welfare, and well-being of our kababayan OFWs will be protected as they pursue their careers in Singapore. In addition to the MOU stated above, another MOU on health cooperation is presently being negotiated by our health ministries so that when the contracts of our OFWs are nearing completion, they will be able to reintegrate into the Philippine economy with ease. There will also be the planned signing of MOUs by Philippine local government units and their Singapore private sector partners, a collaboration of Philippine National Government Agency and the Singaporean private sector, and the business-to-business agreement. Aside from bilateral issues, we also discussed regional issues of mutual interest. As geographical neighbors in Southeast Asia, the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea holds great importance to both our countries. So we look forward to the opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to maintain and to promote peace, security, and stability in the region, as well as our strong support for the peaceful resolution of any such disputes. Furthermore, as fellow founding member states of ASEAN, the Philippines and Singapore have discussed and shared our concerns on developments in Myanmar, which had undoubtedly affected both Singaporeans and Filipinos alike. We have continued to speak on this in all the ASEAN fora, and we have all come to the consensus that a peaceful solution, as prescribed under ASEAN's 5-point consensus, is more urgent now than ever before. To this end, I thank President Tharman and his wife, Mrs. Jane Itogi, for taking the time to come to the Philippines and wish to express my heartfelt appreciation for this meaningful and timely visit. Thank you very much.
Say from my heart, a big thank you to President Marcos Jr. For your warm hospitality, for the generosity with which you've given me your views in the course of our long bilateral discussion, and for the spirit which you convey, the spirit with which we should embark on the strengthening of the relationship between our two countries. We are on a good track, and we've agreed, both through the agreements that we were signing today, we are exchanging today, as well as through some of the existing work that's going on between our two countries, including in defense cooperation. We've agreed that we should strengthen this relationship, broaden it, and make it a forward-looking relationship. My visit comes at a time when Singapore and the Philippines are commemorating our 55th anniversary of diplomatic relations, and it follows on President Marcos's recent visit to Singapore, just in May this year. We reaffirm the warm and long-standing relationship between Singapore and the Philippines. It's a relationship that brings mutual benefits. We are natural partners. We're natural partners, and what we're doing together brings benefit for both of us, for today as well as for tomorrow. And I'm heartened to see how far the relationship is progressing, and each time we meet, in fact, since the last time President Marcos Jr. came to Singapore, just a few months ago, we've already made significant progress on several fronts, including on the MOUs that we just signed today. They're basically testament also to the way Singapore looks at the Philippines. We see ourselves as a partner in Philippines development in all aspects: economic development, sustainability, inclusive growth. We see ourselves as a partner for the long term. We would like to participate in Philippines development, both through our companies investing in the Philippines, We'd like to share our experience where relevant, and we would also like to learn from the Philippines on how you tackle a range of complex challenges, including on the environment. We are very different countries, of course, vastly different in land and population size. I think you've got some superior talent in sports that we can also learn from. But we are different countries that can learn from each other. Essentially, though, we share the same aspirations. We all share the same aspirations. Our people want to see their lives improve. They'd like to be able to deal with the cost of living. They'd like good healthcare, good education, and fulfilling lives. Wherever we go in the region, people want fulfilling lives. And that's why we can work together. Through our governments, with each other, through our corporates, as well as through philanthropic agencies. I note that Temasek Foundation and one of our hospitals, Singapore's KK Women and Children's Hospital, are working well with Taguig City towards an MOU on assistance on maternal and child healthcare, for instance. And as close neighbors, we've always supported each other, particularly at times of need. The Singapore Red Cross engaged in significant public fundraising when Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines a decade ago. That's just one example. There are other examples, including the disaster relief work done by Humanity Matters, another Singapore-based humanitarian organization that work together with the municipal authorities, NGOs, and local communities in various provinces like Cagayan, Mindanao, Isabela, and Balangas after various disasters in recent years. Another important area is the conservation of biodiversity. We didn't talk so much about this 3 decades ago. Now President Marcos Jr. and I agreed it is central to cooperation between our countries. Biodiversity is part of the natural wealth of the Philippines and the region, and preserving it is an important priority for us wherever we are. I happen to be the patron of Mandai Nature, which is a conservation arm of Singapore's Mandai Wildlife Group. And I recently visited a breeding program at Mandai Wildlife for the Philippines' national bird, the Philippine eagle. Beautiful bird, but critically endangered. It's an example of what we need to do to collaborate together in this instance, preserving a very important bird species. And we can work together to take advantage of resources and expertise on both sides to be able to keep that part of biodiversity and many other parts of biodiversity alive. Singapore believes firmly in the Philippines' economic potential. Our companies are keen to invest in the Philippines. In fact, we're one of the top foreign investors in the Philippines in a range of industries: transport and logistics, real estate and hospitality, telecommunications, utilities, and now increasingly the whole sphere of renewable energy. So I look forward to some of the companies meeting us later at the banquet that President Marcos Jr. is hosting. But there's a much larger group of companies besides those that are present today who are very keen to explore opportunities in the Philippines. And I understand too that as far as infrastructure cooperation is concerned, Infrastructure Asia, Singapore-based Infrastructure Asia, is working towards an MOU with the Cebu provincial government that would help address Cebu's infrastructural needs, particularly with regard to clean water supply that can serve many municipalities and waste-to-energy facilities. We're also very keen to work on some other new areas of collaboration. President Marcos spoke about carbon credits collaboration. It's an extremely important initiative between our two countries, and we're looking forward to the conclusion of besides the MOU that has been signed today, we're looking forward to the conclusion of the legally binding implementation agreement aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. In fact, there are companies that are already lining up their projects to be able to take advantage of this implementation agreement on carbon credits. One of them, in fact, is Keppel Corporation in Singapore, the Keppel Group, which together with Gen Zero is working with the Ayala Group, I believe in South Luzon, on a project that involves early retirement of coal plants that would earn transition credits. It's a good example of how we get going, get creative, make use of different forms of finance in order to provide streams of finance that make it possible for conservation to take place, for the retirement of polluting industries, but at the same time to generate growth and jobs. It has to go together. Another area that President Marcos Jr. and I discussed was the ASEAN Power Grid, a key regional initiative. The Lao PDR, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore Power Integration Project illustrates its feasibility, the feasibility for cross-electricity trade, cross-border electricity trade. And the Philippines is working to establish the Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines Power Integration Project. Once we link both those power integration projects together, we would have established the foundations for an ASEAN power grid. Some more work to be done with subsea cables and so on, but it's a very important start, getting these two power integration projects off the ground, operational, and being able to link them together. It'll benefit all of ASEAN, and it'll benefit each country individually by providing for more energy resilience and making economically viable the renewable energy projects that each of the ASEAN countries, like the Philippines, is able to embark on. Economic viability will require scale, and that whole ASEAN market offers the scale that's needed through the ASEAN Power Grid. We also discussed the Philippines' efforts to drive digital transformation in the public service. Both sides are in discussion on a program to strengthen digital leadership skills in the Philippine civil service, and President Marcos Jr. and I agreed that we should get this going later this year. We've set a deadline for our officials to meet. It's a project that is of priority for the Philippine civil service, and we're very keen to play our role. In our case, we'll be using the National University of Singapore as a training partner. On people-to-people relations, President Marcos has just spoken about it. We really appreciate in Singapore the invaluable contributions of Filipinos working in Singapore in a range of professions, and especially the healthcare workers and frontline personnel who stood shoulder to shoulder with Singaporeans during our fight against COVID-19. Going forward, they are an invaluable part of our workforce, and I'm glad the MOU we signed together today will be able to expand that relationship. The liberalization of the Singapore-Philippines Air Services Agreement announced in May this year should spur greater tourism, but also greater trade and investment, because that's a very important basis for business people, including our SMEs, to take an interest in different parts of the Philippines and find it very convenient to flip between Singapore and the Philippines. The recent Philippines and Singapore Friendship Week, which we held in July, is the latest step in our expanding partnership. In fact, Singapore was the first Asian country to partner the Philippines in this initiative, involving many stakeholders in both countries. So, once again, thank you, President Marcos Jr., for your hospitality, your openness, and the ideas which you're bringing to our relationship and which we are taking forward. I'm looking forward to the rest of my visit. I'm here for 3 days, essentially. And I'm looking forward to each component of the visit, including what we are going to learn about healthcare, sustainability. I'm visiting some of your research institutions as well to look at new rice grains and drought and flood resistant rice species. All important issues for the future, both for the Philippines as well as for Singapore. So thank you very much. And I should just conclude by noting, as President Marcos Jr. has done, that the South China Sea is an extremely important issue. Singapore's position, of course, is well known. We've consistently upheld the rights of all states to freedom of navigation and overflight, and strongly supported the peaceful resolution of disputes in accordance with international law, including the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. That's fundamental. UNCLOS has to be the legal framework within which all activities in the oceans and seas are carried out. So thank you once again, President Marcos Jr. Look forward to our state banquet later and to interacting with some of the business people. But I'm also looking forward to the meetings I'm having over the next 2 days. Thank you.
You just heard this joint statement of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and Singaporean President Tharman Shanmugaratnam.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has signed into law Republic Act, or RA 12018, creating 3 more Sharia judicial districts and 12 circuit courts across the country. RA 12018, signed by the President on August 12th, amends Articles 138, 147, and 150 of Presidential Decree, or PD 1083, or the Code of Muslim Personal Laws of the Philippines. By virtue of PD 1083, only 5 Sharia judicial districts were created, with the first one covering the province of Sulu, the second in Tawi-Tawi, and the third one in Basilan, Zamboanga del Norte, and Zamboanga del Sur provinces, and the cities of Dipolog, Pagadian, and Zamboanga. The fourth Sharia judicial district is for Lanao del Norte and Lanao del Sur provinces and Iligan and Marawi cities, while the fifth district comprises Maguindanao, North Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat provinces, and Cotabato City. Under RA 12018, the newly created 6th Sharia district will cover Bukidnon, Camiguin, Misamis Occidental, Misamis Oriental, Davao de Oro, Davao del Norte, Davao del Sur, Davao del Oriental, Davao Occidental, Sarangani, South Cotabato, Agusan del Norte, Agusan del Sur, Dinagat Islands, Surigao del Norte and Surigao del Sur provinces, and Cagayan de Oro City. The 7th Judicial District will be for the provinces of Aklan, Antique, Capiz, Guimaras, Iloilo, Negros Occidental, Bohol, Cebu, Negros Oriental, Siquijor, Biliran, Eastern Samar, Leyte, Northern Samar, Samar and Southern Leyte, as well as the city of Tacloban. The 8th District will comprise of Metro Manila, Baguio City, and the provinces of Abra, Apayao, Benguet, Ifugao, Kalinga, Mountain Province, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Batanes, Cagayan, Isabela, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, Zambales, Batangas, Cavite, Laguna, Rizal, Quezon, Marinduque, Occidental Mindoro, Oriental Mindoro, Palawan, Romblon, Albay, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Catanduanes, Masbate, and Sorsogon. According to the new law, the permanent station of the 6th District will be in Davao City, the 7th District in Cebu City, and the 8th District in Manila City. The concerned provinces, cities, or municipalities are directed to provide the courts with adequate court office, supplies, and equipment in accordance with the provisions of the judiciary law. RA 12018, which was made public on Thursday, takes effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the public expects to enjoy another long weekend next week as Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. moved the commemoration of Ninoy Aquino Day to Friday, August 23rd, and at the same time declaring the day as a special non-working day in the whole country. Proclamation number 665 signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on August 15th on behalf of the President said the longer weekend will promote domestic tourism. Under Republic Act or RA number 9256, August 21st of every year is declared Ninoy Aquino Day. Meanwhile, Monday, August 26th is also a holiday in celebration of National Heroes Day. In relation to this, the Chief Executive directed the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE to issue a circular for the implementation of the proclamation for the private sector.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service is heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.820 MHz, and 12.010 MHz. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.